Some people say that Rome was not built in one day, but probably Starlab can be put in orbit from one day to one another. Today we talk about Starlab. Welcome back. Here we talk about space and everything related to it. If you are passionate about space, astronomy, technology and everything about it, you can join all our social platforms at the Space Info Club or our website at www.spaceinfo.club, where tons of content and a community of experts are there waiting for you. This is the Space Info Club. Welcome back on the Space Info Club. Today in this new video we talk about Starlab, a joint venture between Airbus Space and Voyager Space. Yes, this is it. The news is that the joint venture is not a news of today, is from some time ago, but let's talk about the history, how it started. Well, it started in 2021 between Voyager Space and Lockheed Martin, and with Northrop Grumman, which was, I would say, orbiting around the project since some time. But then, 1 year after, in 2022, Lockheed Martin got out from the project, and Airbus Space, the European counterpart of the project, I would say, just caught the chance to get in, and from 2022 now we have Airbus Space involved in the project, and it is the news of some days ago that probably next year we could see already this amazing space station in orbit. And what is very special about this is that you can think about the International Space Station, which was built in something like, I would say, 20 years, because the very first modules were built thanks to the space shuttle, with multiple launches, multiple missions, with people and astronauts putting the various modules into orbit, and still some very few modules kept being built and added in over the years. And today is the 25th of May 2024, and the space station is probably finally completed. I would say that no further models are foreseen to be added, but in a few years, something like 2030, it will be decommissioned. So as we have started thinking about commercial launches, commercial astronauts, commercial space project, also commercial space station have started to come into our mind. And today we talk about Starlab, as I said. So why it is so special? Well, one of the most important thing is that it can be launched in a one single launch. And yes, I am talking about the biggest rocket we have today at our disposal today, almost. Indeed, I'm talking about SpaceX Starship, and thanks to its huge, I would say, free space dedicated to payload, Starlab is of the perfect dimensions just to get fitted into that huge space, into that cargo space, and it is indeed it has a diameter of 8 meters. And the overall, I would say, volume is something like 340 cubic meters. To give you an idea, the International Space Station overall has something like 950, almost 1,000 cubic meters. So with one launch, one single launch, you can put into orbit a spacecraft, which will be a space station of almost 1/3 the volume, the useful volume of the International Space Station. This is amazing. This is huge. And yes, what you are seeing in the video, if you are watching us on YouTube, and by the way, subscribe if you haven't yet, it's just very useful for us to keep growing and keep producing content. So thank you. Also thank you for watching the video. What you are looking now is the final concept of the project of Starlab. As you can see, there are solar panels as a primary energy supply. But what about the energy supply of the humans on board? Well, we have to think about an internal space occupied by 4 astronauts in nominal condition. And that 4 astronauts will be supplied by the spacecraft, which will be launched by the third partner of the project, which is Northrop Grumman, and Northrop Grumman will be supplying the astronauts and also the energies, everything which will be needed on board, thanks to their Sinus capsules, which have already been supplying the International Space Station nowadays. They are fully autonomous capsules, so spacecraft, which can dock to the Starlab space station and then bring with it food, water, and all the other resources, together for sure with scientific experiments. So as I've said, there will be 4 astronauts which will dock to the Starlab space station, and we still don't know specifically about the contract, the experiments that will be made on board. But one most important thing which differentiates the Starlab space station, so this project, is the fact that both Airbus and Voyager Space are counting on governmental contracts. So differently from the pure commercial space station, like their competitors, which can be, for example, the Axiom Space Station, there will be space for commercial contracts, for sure, private commercial contracts, but the focus point will be the contract with public agencies like ESA and NASA and all the other agencies like the Canadian, the Japanese, and so like that. So there will be the most important contracts, the biggest amount of money which will be brought into the project, and so scientific experiments and something like that. And the focus is, okay, when we decommission the International Space Station in something like 5 to 6 years, we will give you an alternative. This alternative is Starlab. Another important thing is the modularity of the spacecraft, of the station, because it can be interconnected with other modules, which again can be launched in a single launch, again with the Starship. But now let's talk about, let's give a look at the space station itself. So we can just talk about the history of the International Space Station and all the orbiting space station. As we can see on their website, everything started on the Russian counterpart in 1971, when the Salyut 1 was launched, and for sure it was built by the Soviets. And now in 1973 the Skylab was put in space by I would say the US counterpart. So thanks to America, we had the second space station of the history. And again, also in that times, people were thinking about reusability, optimizing the resources. Indeed, for people who don't know, the Skylab was taken from an intermediate stage of the Saturn V rocket, which was widely used for launching humans towards the moon. So that part of the design of the project, of the materials, everything was recycled and adapted to build the Skylab. Then in 1986, again with the Russian, we have the Mir space station, which lasted for something like 15 years, and then the project of the Mir, which means peace in Russian language, was adapted to be conjuncted with the International Space Station, what was the very beginning of the International Space Station, which is a huge project started in 1998. As I was saying at the beginning, it is a never-ending project with things, improvement constantly being done. Nowadays we don't have any module which is added now, because it is going to be decommissioned. So astronauts just keep on flying on it, keep on attracting, docking, covering missions and making experiments. But we all know that this is basically a 30-year-old project, with the philosophy, with the design concept which are typical of that years, and a lot of I would say experimental flying objects. So now we have a deeper know-how, a deeper understanding of what we can do to better improve the things in orbit. New projects, because Starlab is not the only one, will be launched in space. So we now just come to nowadays. We have 2023, now we are in 2024, and probably the next year we we have the possibility, the chance to see Starlab being launched, and this is amazing. This is amazing under, I would say, different points of view. But before going on, I would like to talk about I would say the competitors of the project. As I was saying before, we can talk about competitors, but that's not the right word, because as I was saying, Starlab aims to cover, I would say, a different part of the market. That market is the one of the governmental contracts. Indeed, the Starlab project, which has Airbus Space and Voyager Space, and again Northrop Grumman, aims to take money from this kind of contract. So we will see astronauts flying and making experiments in orbit, and then again maybe in a more distant future we will see some purely commercial partnership. We already heard about Hilton, which wants to build which wants to occupy part of that module with I would say VIP parts, just to host people who just want to fly in space for their pleasure. But this is a very, very distant project in the future. The main goal nowadays, and the main goals to, I would say, the business plan of the project is taking money from governmental contract, and this is very important under different point of view. One of them is the European point of view. Indeed, if you think about the competitors, what's happening nowadays in space, we have the International Space Station, which is international, with multiple contributions from different agencies: NASA, ESA, Canada, Japan, and basically everything apart from China. And there is again Russia also in the project, but then apart from the ISS we have the Tiangong Space Station, which is the Chinese counterpart. And from some images and some videos from that, we have seen that there is a very modern, very futuristic architecture, and so China seems to have gained also the know-how in building the space station. But and one of the sign of that, one of the, I would say, causes of that is the fact that the Tiangong Space Station has been built very recently. So the technology, the materials, the design philosophy is very modern, is very far from what was conceived in 1998 for the International Space Station. Because maybe you are wondering why we are still building something like which resembles very old and has to be adapted to the International Space Station. One of the answers is the fact that when you have to, I would say, dialogue with the systems, with objects which were built with standards of 30 years ago, well, you just have to adapt. You just cannot think about bringing an experiment, a technology, a new part, I would say even a new module into the ISS, and bring completely new technology, new standards which are basically incompatible with what you are going to find there. Now, back again, talking about the international environment of the project. Well, this is very important, in particular under the European counterpart, because if you think about the commercial space station, also the private ones, which will be built by Axiom, for example, and other companies, well, there is no European company which is going to build a space station like Starlab, like the International Space Station, like the Axiom or Tiangong one. All the European companies in the space field have very small funds and therefore very small projects. So Airbus has a very strategic interest in being part of the project, involving Europe into the project. Particularly, I have to mention two countries of Europe, which are Italy and France, which will be particularly involved in the construction and the logistics of the Starlab project. This is very important because you don't have to forget that apart from the commercial astronaut, the astronauts we have been used to think about, they are all paid by the respective government. For example, if you think about a country, let's say Spain. Spain has to pay for allowing an astronaut from their country to be transported and to be allowed to fly into the International Space Station. But if your country is not part of a union, or I would say a group of countries which have the right to fly into into a space station, for example, you don't basically have access to space, and your country is just cut out from that project. So this is very, very important for Europe, also under the strategic point of view. And by the way, we are talking about strategical partnership, strategical, I would say, environment. I strongly invite you to go and see our latest video interview where we have a very special guest who is Benjamin Ogden, and he is the professor of strategic space studies. He has a huge and impressive career in the US Army, and we're talking about privatization, we're talking about China and the strategic importance of space. And yes, we're also talking about Biden and Trump and the presidential election. So that's a very interesting video, quite long, but I really appreciated this chat we have with him. So very, very interesting. I strongly advise you to look at him. But now back again to the Starlab project, and let's talk about for example, the impact the project can have. I'm just showing you just a little part of this project, and this is very important also under the commercial point of view, and also considering that some experiment will be made by private companies, and which will be again bringing money into the system. And this is very, very important also for the business plan development, because as we have seen now we are just going to think about a more distant future. Well, the mission of the thing is being funded indirectly by governmental and public contracts for science, for experiments, for things like that. But then when space will be, I would say, more widely accepted by the companies, and private companies not directly involved in the sector will be using space to make research, to develop research and development for their projects. Well, this will be a very interesting outpost to make experiments, to make research, and contracts also will come from that side. So this is, I would say, the last thing, the last accomplishment of Starlab. Now, I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it interesting. So let me know in the comments if I forgot to mention something. And before tell you goodbye, I invite you to visit our website at www.spaceinfo.club, where tons of content, particularly free content, you just have to join the club, which is 100% free. We just need your email, and you will be accessing the members area and all the magazine articles, the articles from the blog, and the courses we just reserve for you. This is everything free, and just you subscribing will greatly support us. So just give a look. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.